So first of all, what I intend here to accomplish is just to make you guys understand what an API manager is, how APIVersity just stays in that situation and in that environment, and maybe help you guys to understand how you guys can manage some all your API catalog, which sometimes is pretty hard depending on how huge is it. So I'm gonna explain first who am I. My name is Ivan Campillo. Obviously, I'm not English, and I come from APIVersity team. I'm the software engineer, the lead technical architect, and I've been working in the IT business for more than 10 years. So do not hesitate to make some technical questions during the exposition and maybe afterwards. And if you guys just bear with me if I'm too technical explaining some stuff, because I can help it. So what are we gonna do today? We are gonna try to, as I said, make you understand how an API manager works. And this is more or less the index of all the sections that I'm gonna try to accomplish today, which is give some definitions about what an API manager is. I'm not gonna talk about what an API is because I understand that you guys know that already. And I'm gonna try you to see some screens about the APIVersity components. And I'm gonna be very brief on how the PSD2 directive works with APIVersity. And also, I'm gonna show some screens about the new version that is gonna appear at the end of this month, which is the 4.0, 3.0. And maybe you guys can understand that our roadmap is moving very fast every day, depending on our client requirements. So I'm gonna be very quick on this slide. Everybody knows what an API is, otherwise you wouldn't be here. But in the end, for us, an API, and talking about REST APIs, it's just a gateway where your assets and your digital resources can be exposed to the world, okay? What are we? We are an API manager, and probably most of you have heard about it. Some of you guys are working with it already. But this is exactly what we are. We are not doing anything else more than API management. So we help the people with APIs, the companies with APIs, with a whole catalog of them. We help them manage their resources and have a place where they can just build all their company API catalog and maybe have some more control about it. So I said more or less what an API manager is, and I'm going to explain what are the main things that APIVersity can do for an API holder, an API creator or developer, which are, the first one, we are a tool for analysis and monitoring. We provide statistic information to our clients and how the APIs are working, how the people are using them, what times of the day are getting the heaviest work, and also it will help you track how your APIs are working every single day and every single time of the day. The other thing that we do in case some of our clients require it, we provide different levels of security, let's say, security measures. So if you guys have already your security standards and your security stuff in your application already implemented, we can just step away and leave you do that job. But some of the APIs normally, they just take care about the business logic and they want to have an extra security. So we provide different layers that we will see afterwards. The other thing that we do is help the API creators to monetize their APIs. We keep track of all the calls that are appearing to the system, depending on even, we are talking about resource level. So you can, from our API manager, configure every single resource and give a price to it so you guys can start monetizing and taking advantage of your API resources too. One important thing that we do is the scaling. We provide a way for your APIs to be scaled. We also give advice on how you guys can put your APIs on the cloud and help you have robust systems and maybe start to move forward on cloud systems, which is very important for us since we are a SaaS company right now. And we help you productize. We make your APIs an actual real product. It's not just a resource that you can expose to the world, but also something that you can version, you can deploy, You can start having different environments. You can put your APIs on sandbox environments for your developers, or you can put them on production. You can version them. You can have both versions at the same time. So in the end, we provide an environment when you guys can not only have your APIs exposed, but also have different implementations. So the API platform of APIVersity consists of 3 parts. We are going to go through all of them. I'm going to show you some screens. We are going to just touch some buttons over there. And the most important ones are the control center, the developer center, and the proxy. The control center is obviously the place where the administrator of the APIs can go and manage the APIs, adding all the resources, adding the security, checking all the users' usage of the application. They can see also the statistics, monitoring. We have the developer center. I'm going back. The developer center where the developers of your APIs, the consumers, can go and start checking what's available in your site, what APIs are going to be able to be called, and also how's the security of them. They can even have a testing platform where probably if the millions of people are here, they're going to be very happy to see that. We are using one of their components too. And this is where your developers actually can check your catalog of APIs. And we have the third one, which is the main platform, let's say, component, which is the proxy, the gateway, where your developers are making the calls. This is what stays in the middle of your developers and you, and your APIs. And this is what performs all the logic of, let's say, restrictions, constraints, and also counting. This is where all the security happens. I'm trying to be quick because I'll have lots of stuff to show, so don't hesitate to interrupt me if I'm going too fast. But I'm going to go straight away to the proxy. This is the first component, the one that I explained before the last. This is where your APIs actually are working. This is everything. Everything that happens in the APIVersity platform happens here. We are making all the logic as security, as I say, as you can see over there in the left side, and transformation. And we also provide traffic management and extension. So you can rewrite your APIs in the manager. You can actually change them. You can make them easier to use to your developers. And before going forward, I wanted to explain more or less what's the APIVersity mapping, because I'm going to talk about that afterwards. It makes sense for me to clarify that first. The APIVersity proxy mapping is the way that we have to know exactly what services of the final API, our client API, and the public API that you guys are rewriting. This is how it maps. So it's pretty simple. We have 2 concepts: the private one and the public API. The first one is the one that your APIs are located. Probably the APIs that they probably look like in the last years. This is what you guys have. These are your resources. And the public APIVersity endpoint is the one that your clients will see from now on. This is the endpoint that can be rewritten. They can be make them simple. And this is the place where you guys can start moving, reconstructing it, rebuilding it, versioning it. And that's how we do it. If you can see at the bottom of the slide, you will see how we work normally. This is the normal case that we have with most of our clients. The company goes at the start. If you guys have a domain, obviously you can just erase everything on the left side of the first dash. And we have the API name, the version of the API, and the resource that you are hitting. If you see the example, it's simple. We are just having users, version 1, resource 123, which is in the end the user ID. Okay? So we just transform the private API to the public one. What happens in the proxy every time you make the call? We are performing some security, mapping, and auditing. These are the 3 main things that we do. The security, these are the levels that I talked about a while ago, with no security auth, IP address restrictions, APP keys, which it's like user and password, SSL certificates, and domain restrictions, okay? The 2 other things that we do is the mapping, which everything is cached. So if the people is concerned about what happens with the delay that we may introduce for being mapping and doing all that stuff, we are working with mapping caches. So everything right now it's happening straight away. We don't have to do any job over there. And we are doing auditing. So everything that happens in your platform and your APIs, it's being logged into an S3 repository right now in all AWS. So we take care about all that stuff too in the proxy. So before we go any further, I want to explain more or less what's the concept of developer in APIVersity, because I'm going to talk about that afterwards. You're going to see it every time. The developer is the consumer of your APIs. It's just the main users, the final users that your API is going to hit. It can be a person or it can be an application. It can be a web mobile application. It can be one of your mobile components, maybe one of your web pages. So for us, the developer is whoever consumes your APIs. So after that definition, I'm going to show you more or less how the calls are made. If you guys can see this. Do you see anything? It's pretty bad, eh? Yeah, I'm gonna just pretend that you guys can see it. So the thing that I'm gonna move it to the other place, maybe to my browser. Here it's gonna be pretty clearer. Okay. As you can see here, we have the demo, which is the name of the company, our client. In this case, it's just the entity that we created for this. All the domain stuff. This is the name of the API, which is Pet Store. We have the version 1 and the resource, which is just called JSON. After that, we have several parameters, which is the APP ID and the APP key, kind of user and password. What we do is we map this to whatever it's configured in the control center. Whenever you make the call, you receive just the JSON file. So what we did here, we created an API out of a JSON document that is exposed in the Swagger definition language test. So I'm going to go through afterwards how did I map this one, but I wanted you to see in an easy way how we are making the calls. If you are not properly making the call or you just made an error in your APP key restriction, our proxy is just rejecting it straight away. So that would be the first thing to show. I'm coming back to the slides again. Okay, so you have an API, you have a public API endpoint that you just decided to have, but you need to control it, you need to configure it. So that's why we provide the control center. The control center is the main platform for the administrators of the APIs. Here you can just configure your APIs, how you want to do the mapping, the security of each API, if you want to charge for them, if you want to restrict that to certain developers, if you want to see the statistics and everything related to analysis, you can go to this application too. So first, before moving forward, I'm going to talk about what an application is, which is the next concept that we have in APIVersity. And that slide shows it very good. That's exactly how it works. We have a developer that uses an application, let's say Ivan Campillo, which is me as a developer. I have an application called APP Demo Random, and I'm using the API Random. So this is how we know exactly what's the context of the call. So every time we do statistics and we show that to your administrators, what we do is we show information based on the developer or the applications. So the applications can be a way for the developers to also organize their calls and their inner and their components, the components that they use to make the calls to the APIs. I'm going to go very fast on the control center pages. I'm going to show the dashboard, the API platform, and the API health and monitoring over here. This is how the APIVersity control center look like. This is what you're going to find whenever you just log it as an administrator. One thing you can do here is just check all the dashboard. You can see what happened today in the production environment or the sandbox environment. You can see that Ivan Campillo, as a developer, made 38 calls today, and one has made from Demo Devil. You can see that the resource get.json from Pet Store is receiving 15 calls today, so it's your top resource for the day. You can just change the filters and see what happens lately. The application, as I explained before, is just the way that the users have to know exactly what's the context of the calls. I'm going to go back and go down. As you can see here, all the calls that I've been making today, the 2 Pet Store calls that I made, I don't know if you can see that over there, the 2 over there. This is actually what's happening in real time, in live. the developers are making calls, and you as an administrator can come here and see what's happening. You can see also when was the best day for your API, and you can even compare your API versions. You can see what happens with the pet store version 1 compared with the API test version 1. So you can see here, you can make some analysis and get some information about what's the use of your APIs. If I go down, you also can see what kind of response and what kind of answers you are giving from your final API. So as you can see here, I have 7 client errors. One of the client errors is one of the bad passwords they made just before going here. As you can see this one. So this is the one that happened just before, a few minutes ago. So whenever you have your statistics, you want to configure your API platforms. I'm very happy that MuleSoft came before because we are Rammel compatible in our version 0.0. We also work with them and their team, just making sure that we are compatible with all the definitions of the Rammel files. So if you have an API Rammel, you just can come here, import it, and you will get the API straight away. As you can see here, we have the Pet Store API, the one that I just tested before, with the name of the API, version 1, and the resource JSON. And as you can see, this is what I'm calling, and this is what happens in the backend call. So just to make you follow the whole process, whenever I'm making a call to our service Pet Store version 1 JSON, what happens underneath is a call to Pet Store Swagger IO version 2 Swagger JSON. So in the end, we just created that JSON file. We created an API out of a simple JSON file, and we added some security. What security? The one that you can configure here. You have the APP key security. So you have to put in the query string these 2 parameters in order to provide information about the security. I'm going to move forward to the use plan section and the developers. But I don't want to just spend a lot of time here because the good thing about this is just testing it afterwards. So from an administrator standpoint, you can come here, configure your use plans so your user can start attaching to them and buying them in order to improve the number of calls that they can make to the system, 2 requests per 10 seconds. And also the pricing of the tickets, in case you want to start charging for your APIs. You can come here, configure what's the amount of price for each ticket you want them to pay. So that's pretty good stuff. You can go to the developers list and see who just logged in your system and what use plan they are attached to. You can just change the information, go to the monetization, and even give them some tickets for testing, changing their plan, things like that. This is just a simple control of your application environment. You can come here and see all the applications of your developers. You can see that Ivan Campillo has 4 applications right now. I don't know if I'm talking too much, and maybe you guys don't see anything, but as you can see here, there are 4 applications attached to Ivan Campillo. And the APIs, you can configure them and see the APIs that they can use with them. The one that I'm using right now is the random app, I think, which has the access to Pet Store over here. This is how you start using the APIs. You can control the people which is using the APIs through the APP restrictions, okay? And you can get some more reports about the use of the platform, how many calls they're making, how many tickets they bought, how many tickets they have, and how many purchases have been done in your platform lately. That's actually typical control application where you can see everything that happens in your platform. All right. So now you guys know more or less what's the control center. I'm going to move forward and start talking about adding an API to APIVersity, which is probably the most important thing here in this workshop right now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure you guys can see it somehow. So I'm going to take from my Postman over here, I have an API called API test deb Genoa. You can see here. Every time you make the call, it gives you a list of albums, okay? That would be your final API, your private API. It's just giving a JSON file. It looks like a JSON more or less. You can see here a bit more. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add this API to the system, okay? So the most important thing is where the API is located. So I'm going to come here to the control center. I'm going to create a new API. I'm going to use the wizard. I'm going to call it APIdays AP. I'm going to leave the security as IPP key. I'm going to put here where is it located, API test dash port 3000, okay? I'm going to click on OK, and I'm going to add some resources to it. I know that there is a resource called albums. If I call albums in the root, I'm going to get some albums list. So I'm going to come here. I'm going to put the private path here, albums, and I'm going to just give a name. I'm going to give it go. Okay. I'm going to add the get service, and you will see over here, and you can see the summary afterwards. You will know exactly how to call your API on this and what's going to happen underneath. So if you go to the see your API, everything is created here with your security. I'm going to go to the version and change the production also. I'm going to active the production environment too in the same endpoint and the same location. Okay. Now we have both environments created. What I'm going to do is I'm going to explain a bit more what the developer center looks like, the place where your developers can start consuming your APIs, and I'm going to start using it, the new API that I created. Okay. Let's go back to the slides, just not to get lost. Here it is. This is the developer center. The developer center is the other component that the APIVersity clients will have. It's the one that they expose to their clients, to their consumers, the API consumers. This is where they can go, they can log in, they can register, and they can start using the APIs. They will see the catalog of the APIs that you're exposing, and they will also be able to try it from the API console that we provide. There are two important, let's say, roles in the APIVersity Developer Center. We have the administrators and the developers. The developers, I just explained it. And the administrators are exactly the clients again. They just can come here. They can change the layout of the web page. They can change the images, colors, and stuff like that. They can create a new theme. And they can start adding widgets, pages, and configure whatever they want in the CMS that we provide, the Developer Center. This is more or less how we just provide the default pages. We provide pages for API Health to get some information about the status of the APIs. We provide documentation, a consoles they can try, and some information with web components and web controls that you can just change with your own contents as the normal CMS. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go through all this stuff in the Developer Center. I'm going to create, I'm going to log in as Ivan Campillo, this developer I have. I'm going to create an application because I want to use the new API that I created. I'm going to go to the console and I'm going to test it, okay? So let's go back here again. The first thing I'm going to do, this, as you can see here, the colors is the one that we provide as default. This is just a CMS. It's based on Liferay. So we can just build another theme on it, change the colors, change every single icon, stuff like that. And okay, I'm logged in. I'm now in the private section. I'm going to go and see how's my profile. That's all my information, billing information. You can do just the typical stuff that you can do in a developer portal. You can see what's your plan right now. I'm in the basic plan. So I'm paying €5 a month right now. And I have around 50 tickets per month every time that I renew it. Let's see what are my applications. I have lots of applications. Let's create a new one because I want to use the new API, the new API, APIdays app. I'm going to call it APIdays app and no description. And I'm going to start using the new API that I just created from the other place. Once I get it, I can go back and I can start checking the documentation of it. This documentation is created straight away. Whenever, actually nothing appears here because I didn't write anything. Let's go back here. So you can see this service doesn't have any description, so nothing appears in the other side. If you have a Rammel file, everything is imported. All the descriptions, documentations, and everything like that is imported, as well as the parameters that I didn't add any. So I'm going to come back here. Once I know exactly how to make the calls, which in the end is just the documentation, I'm going to go to the API console. I'm going to select the API. I'm going to select production better. I'm going to go to API's version. I'm selecting the application that I just created, and I'm going to try it. I have one service, cool. And as you can see here, all the information about your credentials is already created for you. So the only thing that you can do is just make the call. I don't know if you guys can see the URL over there. It's pretty bad. As you can see here, it creates for you how you have to make the call. This is your company name, the proxy domain, the name of the API, the version, and the resource. And it attaches the two parameters that we created through the application, okay? You can also take this stuff over here and move it somewhere else, like this, and make the call. Okay, so that's the whole cycle right now. Every single thing that happened here happened through APIVersity. So all the restrictions that applies to the application and the API had just been applied also. Since I created a public API, you can see over here in the version section over here. Since it's public, I have permissions to do all that stuff. So I just logged in the other place and the API was available for me. If you have any concerns about who is using your APIs, it's simple. Just make it private and select which one of your developers wants to be accessible, okay? You can add auth security also. This is the most common use right now, the two-legged auth security. We provide an auth server, so your clients will be able to make the calls without implementing anything else. And we provide that also included in the API console, just integrated. Okay, lately, what I've been doing here, I just make some calls over here. And as you can see, from a developer standpoint, I can just go and check what APIs are here and what's the status of them. The latest one that we created doesn't appear here because what API Health is doing is making calls every 15 minutes to all the APIs, just make sure that they are still up. So every time an API goes down, you can check the same stuff over here. I'm going to show you. Over here, I want to discard these changes. And here it is. This is the same information. You as an administrator have more information about what are we doing normally. These are all the calls that I've been doing every day between 15 minutes so far. And I have 100% of availability, which means that this API, all of the APIs except these ones that have been removed, are working properly right now in the system. If something goes down, you receive an email explaining that your APIs are not doing well so far. I'm going to go back to the slides. I'm going to know exactly 30 minutes. Okay, I'm fine. I'm going to move forward in these slides because I showed you the documentation, the console. There's something else that you can do here. You can see statistics just related to you. You can come here and see what are you doing normally as a developer. You can see which are the most used resources, how many calls I'm making, and the success of them. So you can make sure that your API calls, your applications that are making the API calls for you are working properly. You can see what are the responses. This is a similar information that you can see in the other portal, but from a developer standpoint, just prepare for them. And the last thing you can do here is you can go and check all the things related to billing and all the things related to your payments and your use plans. You can go here, buy tickets, buy packages, and start using all the things straight away. We provide all these platforms all together. Everything can be configured and customized, but it's everything included. That's the good thing. We want to provide the whole cycle from the API creation to the API consumption, okay? I'm going to move forward. I already did this. I made our first API call. So I'm going to stop a bit about everything related to touching buttons and testing, and I'm going to try to talk about the PSD2 directive and how APIVersity can help with it, help building it, and maybe making some standard helping over there too. How can we fit here? I saw a speech before from a Starling Bank, and I was very glad they were here because I was very happy of finding these slides over there in their public pages. This one's explained very easy how one of the most important things that PSD2 is actually showing to the world. They want just to remove all the stuff between the let's say, suppliers and the banks. They want to just make it everything a bit clearer and without intermediate companies in the middle. So this is exactly what, in the end, APIVersity wants to do. We want to help the banks or help the fintech companies to give a possibility to control their API usage, to know exactly which of the consumers are using the APIs, make the restrictions, add some security. And that's actually the goal for APIVersity. We can be in the middle of every single company, just acting as a proxy. We don't want to do anything related to business logic. We just want to provide a way for them to manage all the APIs. That's exactly our goal. This is the other one that right now PSD2 is explaining. It doesn't make sense to have different banks and different places to go and get the information. So what they're gonna provide is just a new ASP paradigm when they can go and just log into one place and be available, all the information be available for the users. And what we want to do is just want to be there to make sure that everything is happening properly and all the calls are being properly identified from the bank standpoint and from the fintech companies standpoint. And I was very quick. It was 30 minutes, perfectly. That's perfect. So I will have time to show what's going to happen in a few weeks. The APIVersity 3.0 application is going to be released. We are very happy to show these screens for the first time. This is the first time that these screens are shown. And we have a very extensive batch of features to show. But I'm going to show the most important ones, probably the ones that everybody will just appreciate in terms of things that are not happening right now in our application. So the first one is that we are providing external user repositories login, such as the LDAP, Active Directory, Kerberos, and also social networks. We provide a way for the developers to log in using their Bitbucket account or the GitHub account or whatever let's say the company administrators decide. And we had a situation where some of our clients, we have some situations in the other room a few minutes ago with the BBVA API Market. They are having their users from an LDAP or Active Directory, it doesn't matter, but whatever they have is that they have all the users and all the administrators located in some other place and they want to manage both places at the same time. So we are starting to provide a way for the users to be logged through an external entity like those ones. Another good thing that we do, this is a fancy one, this is more techy in terms of who is this feature, let's say, focused on. What we want to provide is a way for administrators to start writing small JavaScript scripts, and they can start changing what happens with the requests and response. So let's have an example. I'm pretty sure you guys cannot see anything, but what it appears there is that you can go to Control Center, you can start transforming what happens in the request before arriving to your API. So you can transform it, and what happens in that code is just an if that says if the ID field of some request it's 1, just add another field. That's pretty nice because sometimes you cannot change the API. Sometimes the APIs are just legacy APIs. You cannot just work with them, but you can start changing them a bit. Maybe you need some extra information that doesn't appear to be received by your consumers normally. So that's a pretty good new feature. It was something added by actually a massive request in our customers and our prospects and things like that. So it's pretty important for us to show that one. This is something that Mulsov mentioned before. Sometimes you just know how to develop the APIs, but you didn't have time enough, or maybe you just started to define how the API endpoint look like, but you don't have the code yet. You cannot wait until that happens to your developers to starting coding. So what we provide is a way, again, in JavaScript, where you can just mock the response of an API call. So if you see over there, what it does, it's a for loop that goes through the request and adds that to the response. So it's pretty good because you can just have a user's typical get user by ID, You can just put a small piece of code saying if the ID is 1, just return this element. If ID is 2, just return something else. So even if you don't have an API yet, you can have also something to show to your developers, and they can just work in parallel. We are starting to, Milsov mentioned that before. Some people are using Rammel. We had that use case already, and but we had a lot of requests from Swagger also. So we started to support both right now. You can add an API now from Rammel and from Swagger, and you can also add it from the wizard, as I did before. It's pretty nice because Swagger has a bit more information about the SDK objects, and for us, we found very, very interesting to put that inside. So we started to be 100% compatible with Swagger as well. We are with Rammel right now. Here you can see how you can import definition files. It's the same way as Rammel, but this time you can just put a JSON or YAML file from Swagger, which is a new feature also. And this is, oh, look at that. That's what happens whenever you just import it. All the documentation, all the examples of calls, requests, responses, and all the information about objects, which is supported by Swagger 2. It's included in the APIVersity environment. So it's nice to have it also available for the developer center, which is going to be very important for us to create some other new features like the SDK generation and the new console that we just implemented. We didn't support REST until this version. Sorry, SOAP until this version. Everything was just REST-based. Now we are supporting SOAP over HTTP, and that's pretty simple. You just get the WSDL, apparently it's called WSDL. I always heard like that. So the WSDL files, you can import them into the system. You can select which port, as you can see in the element at the bottom. You can see, you can select which one you want to import, and everything will be created for you. All the services. This is actually a real example from the Amazon EC2 API. So everything happens through HTTP. That's something to know, but we can give support to SOAP legacy systems. So far, we couldn't, now we can. And that's probably the greatest feature that we have right now. We were very concerned about some feedback that we received from some clients in the developer center, and we just worked for it very hard. And we just developed a new developer center theme designer, which is actually a way for you as an administrator to create your own portal, developer portal, in a few clicks. You can come here, you can change the colors. I don't know if you can see over there, but what you can do is just change the colors. You can change the type of the buttons, change the images, the sets, and things like that. It's pretty interesting because in a few clicks, you can, as you can see here, you can develop a new developer center. You can have time afterwards to make some new modifications, but in the end, you can work with your developer center, putting your logo and your colors and your images straight away. This is very interesting because some of our clients want to start trying it straight away, and the prospects are already concerned about the customization of our developer center. And as you can see here, there is a button to change the layout if you want to have the menu on the left side, in the top, in the bottom. It's pretty nice. Another thing that we did with this, it's also a way to configure the widgets that you can put in the pages. So you can create as many pages as you want. You can change the text. You can change the way the page looks, and you can also put the widgets that we provide whenever you want. But if you don't want to put our widgets straight away, you can actually benefit from the new web content support that we do right now, which is it's faster and easier than the previous one that we have. You can just change the HTML of your contents, the ones that are shown in the screen, in the same place. You can also have, as an administrator, a place where you can just check all the contents that you have and ask maybe somebody else from other department to take care about them, and you afterwards can add it. So we provide like different, let's say, points of view of the same solution, which is the web contents. It's something that if you guys work with a CMS lately, it's probably the most important thing about your portal. we also improved the use plan configuration panel. You saw that before, but now we are providing more information about it. It's a bit more fancy, maybe better coloring and something easier for the developers to go and start changing their use plan. They can see at one glance the ticketing price, how many calls are receiving, and that's actually, I don't know if you remember how it looked like in the previous versions, but we are providing the same functionalities, but we improved that also. It's also fully customizable. You can change the colors and everything like that. It's brand new also. And I mentioned before that we are Swagger 100% compatible, and we started also to use the Swagger console, which is more similar to the ones that are appearing right now in the market. So we wanted our clients to have a developer center that actually looks like the competitors and looks like the other, let's say, developer centers out there. So what we did is we just try to comply with what conventions are appearing out there. And we also provide a better result looking. It's faster, it's cleaner, and it's working the same way in terms of functionalities. We provide the same functionalities, but everything is easier to use right now. So it's going to be something good also for our developers. And something else that I mentioned before is the SDK generation. Just to complete and just finish the whole cycle of development, you can add an API, you can start trying it, but you want to start coding with it. So we provide a way for the developers to come here to the API console, just select an API and download in different languages a piece of code that can be executed straight away. It creates everything for you. It creates all the objects, and the best you have your Swagger definition, the best you will have this SDK generation. So it's pretty new in terms of what actually looks like, and for the developers, they can just finish that last step of development that sometimes is pretty hard, just to create a hello world application and start just making calls to the API. And 41 minutes, that's all. That's our speech from APIVersity. We want to thank you guys for being here. I know that there are just plenty of things to do around, and maybe the other place can be very interesting too, and I appreciate very, very much, and from my team also, that you guys can stay here and support that too. So if you guys have any questions, easy ones if possible.
Yeah, I think they were interested by your talk. This is what they attended, right? So if you have any questions before the coffee of the afternoon, that will wake everybody up again.
That means that I explain myself properly, right?
Yeah. Yeah, one here.
Hi. How do you deal with sort of high availability, active across data centers? I saw some of the stuff around monitoring, which I could sort of see how would work in a sort of a cluster and a sort of a single network.
Yeah, I see that. That's a good question. I'm probably not the best role for answering this type of answers, but right now we are SaaS, as I explained. We are working in AWS. We have a whole department of systems right now that are taking care about the EC2 instance replication and all the proxy. We actually were born in the financial area. With our alpha client at the bank, and we took care about that too. I encourage you to come to me afterwards, and I can put you to the right person to answer, because I don't want to say anything that probably doesn't make sense from a software developer standpoint. But yeah, we take care about that. We actually have roles for it. We are working with a lot of AWS certificate people, so it's gonna be easy to answer. Not for me probably, but from someone else, yeah.
Yeah, I may have one question for you about how do you manage API management, APIVersity in teams? Because I know a little bit the software is quite complete. You handle mostly everything, but how do you advise to work in teams on API management?
Advice. Well, the first thing is that actually.
Do you have an API owner? Do you have how do you see your customers using it?
If I had let's say a group of developers, which most of the time this is how it works, I just recommend to have a single developer at different applications. I don't know if you guys remember more or less what's the concept of application, but it's the context of how you make the calls to the APIs. And a good way to understand more or less who is making the calls, maybe testing, sandbox. I recommend an API manager, obviously, and I recommend to use the sandbox environments that we provide also. We are a development team also. We develop APIs. APIVersity has APIs, obviously. We provide an API for our clients for they to get such information like statistics, stuff like that. And we intend to make the developers' life easier. So one thing that you can do is just use the developer center as a developer, not just a developer portal, but just a team portal. It's the place where the developers of the group can go. They just can gather. We are CMS. We can provide also a forum discussion board. We can provide chats and stuff like that inside of the CMS. And that's a good thing, because in the end, what they can do is they can just discuss about the APIs that are shown in the application, and they can, create applications, see the statistics, look at the responses of the statistics, see who is making the right calls, who is making more errors, just talk about between them. Because in the end, I don't know if you remember one of the screens that we have here. You as an administrator can, not this one, you as an administrator can come here and just check who is making the calls on each time. You can select the API, the version, and the resource that is receiving more errors normally. So it's pretty interesting to use this not only as a tool for managing your APIs, but also as a tool to manage your developer team work. So I don't know if I answered the question more or less.
Most of the problem we see with APIdays, we know probably all the API management solution that sponsor our conference anywhere in the world.
That's not an easy place to be, right?
Yeah. No, it's not easy, but it shows that there's demand. But we see that where the company are the more happy, the happier with API management solutions, and when they could work in teams, not only manage APIs, but also work in teams and everything. So this is why I ask the question.
That's actually a good thing. We take that kind of comments very serious. So if we can just brainstorm about that afterwards, that would be awesome, because I want to gather some information about what the people think about. I encourage everyone to come to our booth. I think we are going to be moved to the main corridor
now
over
the
here.
APIVersity booth is in the main alley. So
if you guys want to go there, talk about what we are not doing properly, and maybe if you guys have some concerns about some of the parts that I showed before, I would be very happy to hear it, because most of the things that we are releasing in the 3.0 version are actually comments from people. That's probably what differentiates a bit from the competitors in terms of size.
Bottom-up approach.
We are very agile. Let's say we move the things up and down in the roadmap very easily. So we take care about that things as quick as we can. So I encourage you guys to come.
We have time for one more questions, or it's okay. It's coffee time now. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the time. Thank you.